The Aleutian is one of the only SUVs in the game with snorkel options. However, the option to add or customize your snorkel does not appear when customizing the car in the Executive Office Vehicle Workshop, although this option will appear in Los Santos Customs or any other personally owned custom shop. The Astron's red reflector on the middle of its arc bumper options isn't centered and it's actually slightly off to the left. This is most noticeable when you compare it to the diffuser, the livery, or the badging on the back of the car. The Astron Custom, despite being more expensive and the custom variant, is actually half a mile an hour slower than the Astron. Now, the fact that I had to find a small detail about every single individual baller in the entire game was a little absurd and it took me a hot minute, but here we go. The first generation baller has ads shown around the map with unavailable mods, including a bumper splitter and additional side skirts, which are not modifications that are available in the final version of the game. With the second generation of the baller in the earliest versions of the game, Southern San Andreas Super Autos actually had a picture of the first generation model, but this was very quickly fixed. When it comes to the Baller LE Armored, Baller LE LWB, and the Baller LE LWB Armored, they're all virtually carbon copies of each other. However, the Baller LE is the only baller to spawn inside the Diamond Casino Resort's public garage. The Baller LE Armored is used in various heists, including the Doomsday Heist, Union Depository Contract, and the Gangbanger Robbery. The Baller LE LWB is the only baller that's included in the Exotic Exports list, and the Baller LE LWB Armored is the only baller that's requestable via the interaction menu, more specifically with the VIP menu. The Baller ST has daytime running lights in its front headlight compartments. However, they can only be clearly seen at nighttime or in dark spaces, but they only turn on once the headlight has been smashed or broken. There are occasional times where these lights will also appear stuck on, despite the fact you've gotten out of the vehicle. The Baller STD features a bug that regardless of what spoiler you have attached to the vehicle, if you manage to break the trunk of the car off, it will default back to the stock variant. Also, this vehicle has a lot of floating bits once it gets severely damaged. The BJ-XL was originally meant to tow trailers in the game, as the vehicle's meta file indicates that it was at one point supposed to be able to tow smaller trailers, but it was never given a tow hitch and this feature was removed. The Cascader is a career progress award for the bottom dollar bounties section. However, due to some error with this vehicle, if you win this and go to repaint or put new liveries on it, the white bumper on the front of the vehicle will continue to be white regardless of what you paint the car. This is not the case with the regular version of the car. Shout out to MyHigh for letting me purchase their Cascader because I am not doing all that work to get this car. The first generation of the Cavalcade actually has tinted lights. When you go to tint the windows, both the indicators and the blue lights in the headlight compartment will become tinted. As for the second generation of the Cavalcade, the driving column is actually slightly shifted from the steering wheel and base of the dash. The Cavalcade XL has removed badging, as the texture file for this vehicle's badging contained a V-shape logo derived from the VSTR, which isn't visible anywhere in the final model of this vehicle. However, it can be seen on Southern San Andreas Super Autos or on the Rockstar Games Social Club. The Vapid Contender, which, first off, pisses me off because it's supposed to be Karen, also has an ugly removable front bumper, which many people have requested Rockstar make an option to remove. Now, although they've never made this an option, the picture that they used on the Social Club actually lacks the front-mounted fog lights. On the Dorado, it's impossible to have stock side steps with custom arch covers. This is because when you customize the arch covers to any other variant, it actually removes the side steps. So if you want to have different arch covers, just know that your side steps will have to be a different color or a completely clean version. The Dubsta has a similar issue to the second generation Cavalcade, with its steering column being offset, but upon closer inspection it's actually just the steering wheel that's offset, which is another odd bug that's only visible on this version of the car, and not the Dubsta 2. The Dubsta 2, however, does lack a hitbox on its spare tire, meaning that you can travel through it, back it into things, and it won't collide with anything, while this isn't an issue on the regular Dubsta. It's odd that these models are so different. The Everon RS has two different texture issues. The first is where the intercooler clips through the vehicle's lower grille. Secondly, there's a contrasting textured pattern on the rear bumper area, which is hard to see unless you're in good lighting with a light color on the bumper. The FQ2 was originally supposed to be called the Lemnisket, which is another name for the shape of an infinity symbol. This vehicle also had incorrect door textures in the original version of the game, where it only showed radio textures across the entire interior. The Granger, according to Southern San Andreas Super Autos, is a pickup truck. Don't ask me where they got that information from, this is clearly an SUV. The Granger 3600LX has more tinted fog lights on the front bumper and reflectors on the rear that will turn black when adding window tint. The Grizzly was originally supposed to be called the Detonator, and its bravado badging on the right fender is actually mirrored. On the left side you can see that it says bravado, but on the right side it's actually backwards. This issue is only present in the enhanced version of the game. The Habanero has a weird line in its code that causes it to be more susceptible to rollovers, which is where it's gotten the nickname in some communities, the Habanero roll. If you increase the severity of this effect, it actually makes the vehicle nearly undrivable, as it'll roll over with even the smallest of turns. If the Huntley S's tires are popped, the stock rims look like they're barely textured, with noticeably lower level of detail. This is most likely a minor visual glitch, and it's only seen on a few other vehicles. Now before we get to the I-Wagens Indestructible Fender, I wanted to let you know that I have a community Discord that I just revamped with all sorts of new roles, including an exclusive channel just for members and Twitch subscribers. So if you want a place where you can connect with the community and find the latest GTA updates, stream updates, and upload schedules, check out the Discord using the link in the description. The I-Wagen can be rammed to its right front fender as many times as you'd like, but that fender will never come off. That is, of course, unless you ram the left fender, in which case both fenders will detach, because the right fender is mapped to the left fender and not by itself. The Issy Rally's race hood option has a small spot near the left vent, which displays odd details when a livery is applied. This small mismatched rectangle is likely a minor modeling oversight, but it doesn't seem to happen with the same hood that has fog lights attached. The Jubilee can be requested through the agency, but when you request this vehicle, its headlights will be permanently off, meaning you can't turn them on even at night, making it more difficult to drive at night or in dark places. This is not the case if you drive the vehicle out of the agency yourself. The Landstalker originally had TV screens added in its back seats, specifically when you equipped it with side steps. This feature was however removed in the enhanced version. The Landstalker XL's badging on the left and right side are actually uneven, or perhaps it's the liveries that are uneven. Now although this appears on every single livery, you'll notice that the door handles don't quite line up with the lines, and neither does the badging. So I'm not sure exactly what's offset here, but something's not right. The Mesa comes with a topless variant. Now although you can't purchase this variant, it was originally meant to be purchasable, as in the Warstock Cash and Carry website files, there was a purchasable version for the topless variant. The Mesa Snow surprisingly also has a topless variant, although it will never actually spawn with it, but it does exist. For the Novak, if any wheel type other than the stock wheels are selected, the brake calipers will actually be behind the brake discs, which would make them unusable. Now the Patriot has a lot of problems, and I could probably make a video about it alone. When this vehicle is driven by the NPC, it can occasionally spawn with a small radio antenna above the windscreen, but if the player enters the Patriot, the antenna will disappear. You can also find this vehicle spawning around the map with extra mods including side steps, bull bars, and round roof lights, although none of these modifications are available for us to put on the vehicle in Los Santos Customs. And as soon as you drive this vehicle into any mod shop, these options will disappear, giving you a stock Patriot to work with. On top of that, the customizable rear bumpers you can put on this car are actually off-centered to the right, and it's not by a little bit. The Patriot Stretch has less issues, but when you apply tint windows, the yellow marker lights on the stock front bumper will also get tinted black. The Radius's trunk will actually clip when opening with the interaction menu. The rear window will clip slightly through any spoilers you put on the vehicle, and the top of the trunk will clip through slightly on the roof. And being less noticeable, the front doors will also clip with the fenders. The Rebel GTS has a broken glass texture, as if you shoot through both windows, you'll see the fuzzy outline of the far window on the closer window's broken texture. I don't know if I explained that right, but you can see what I'm looking at. The Ricardo initially had a glitch where no matter what tint the rear window was, it was only visible from the outside, as if you looked from the inside, the tint would be clear. The Seminole is similar to the BJ-XL, as it was initially meant to tow trailers, but was never given a tow hitch, so this feature was inevitably cut. The Seminole Frontier has no option to be unarmed in the front two seats. If you cycle through all the weapons when driving this vehicle, you'll notice that you don't have the option to hold your fist out. Now, if you don't have any weapons on your character, the unarmed option will be grayed out and you won't be able to do anything, meaning you can't flip people off in this vehicle. When the Serrano was brought to the Enhanced Edition, the front left headlight was missing a surface and texture in the center of the lens. The Squatty's stock horn lacks a Doppler effect and will stay at a consistent pitch from all distances. Here you can hear what a regular horn sounds like when someone drives past you at full speed. And here's what the Squatty sounds like without that effect. The Toros clearly has a trunk door, as there's seams around the rear of the vehicle that would indicate the trunk was openable. However, this is not an option in the interaction menu, and it was never coded into the game. The Viv Knight, like quite a few other vehicles in the game, has a startup chime when the engine is activated or turned on. However, this is the only vehicle I've found where a modification or conversion will remove that chime entirely, specifically with its HSW conversion. The Woodlander is both the lightest SUV in the entire game and the most expensive if you include its HSW conversion, making it the most expensive per pound of any SUV in the game. Both the XLS and the Armored XLS have the same issue with their rear brake lights. Now this can be confusing, so I'm going to do my best to explain it. If you shoot the rear reverse light on the right side, it will break another part of the light as well. However, if you shoot either of the brake lights, nothing will break. When you shoot the left light that's attached to the trunk, it will actually break almost all the lights on the right side. This is because the mapping of these lights and their braking animation were actually kind of awkwardly tied together, leading to some interesting mishaps. So there you have it, 49 SUVs and more than 49 facts, since I threw in a couple extras today.